The medical scanner made soft beeping sounds as it finished another cycle. Dr. Mira Webb watched the numbers on her screen change in ways that made no sense. She had been a doctor for 23 years, working with humans and 6 different alien species. She knew what bodies could and could not do. This human body was breaking every rule she knew. David Ross lay on the examination table, awake and calm. His rescue ship had found him floating in space 3 days ago. His small cargo vessel had been destroyed by raiders near the edge of human territory. The rescue team expected to find a corpse. Instead, they found David sitting in his emergency pod, reading a book and eating emergency rations like nothing had happened. The pod's life support had failed 2 days before they found him. "Your oxygen ran out 48 hours ago," Dr. Webb said, looking at the pod's data logs. "How are you still alive?" David shrugged. "I held my breath a lot, slowed down my heart rate. You learn things when you live on the frontier." Dr. Webb stared at him. No human could survive that long without oxygen. The scanners showed something even stranger. David's blood cells were carrying oxygen at efficiency levels that should be impossible. His lungs were processing the thin air in the medical bay like it was pure oxygen. "I need to run more tests," she said. "Go ahead," David replied. "I'm not going anywhere." The first test showed his bone density. Normal human bones would break under certain pressures. David's bones were 3 times stronger than they should be. The second test checked his muscle fibers. They were packed with more protein than any human she had ever seen. His muscles could work longer without getting tired, but the brain scans made her call for help. Dr. Velox, the station's Alterran medical expert, arrived an hour later. Alterrans had been studying biology for thousands of years. They knew more about how bodies worked than most species in the galaxy. "Show me," Dr. Velox said, his 4 eyes focused on the scanner readouts. Dr. Webb pulled up the brain scans. "Look at the neural pathways. They're rebuilding themselves while we watch." The scans showed David's brain making new connections in real time. Areas that controlled pain response were growing stronger. Memory centers were becoming more efficient. Parts of his brain that humans rarely used were lighting up with activity. "This is impossible," Dr. Velox said, his voice filled with certainty. David turned his head to look at both doctors. His voice was calm and steady. "Impossible for who?" Dr. Velox stepped back. In all his years of medicine, no patient had ever questioned his diagnosis. "Impossible for any known biology. Your brain is changing too fast. Your body is adapting beyond normal limits. Normal for who?" David asked again. Dr. Webb ran another scan. This time she focused on David's cellular structure. What she saw made her hands shake. His cells were repairing damage faster than the scanner could record it. When she took a small sample of his skin, the wound healed completely in less than 10 minutes. "Where are you from?" she asked. "New Perth," David said. "It's a mining colony about 40 light years from here." Dr. Webb knew about New Perth. It was one of the furthest human settlements from Earth. The planet had heavy gravity, toxic air, and radiation levels that should kill most humans within a year. "How long have you lived there?" "My whole life. My parents were part of the first settlement wave. That was 35 years ago." Dr. Velox was studying the scans with growing concern. "Your genetic markers are human, but they show variations I have never seen. Your DNA has sequences that are not in any human database." "Maybe your database is incomplete," David said. The Alterran doctor's scales changed color, a sign of agitation. "Our database contains genetic information from over 10 million humans across 3 centuries. These variations should not exist." David sat up on the examination table. The movement was smooth and controlled, showing none of the weakness expected from someone who had survived in space for days. "Dr. Webb," he said, looking directly at her, "how many frontier colonists have you examined?" She thought about it. Most of her patients were from core worlds or space stations. People who lived comfortable lives with good medical care and safe environments. "Not many," she admitted. "The frontier changes you," David explained. "Not just mentally, physically. My grandfather could barely survive New Perth's environment when he first arrived. He needed breathing gear and radiation medicine. My father needed less protection. I don't need any." Dr. Velox was running more scans. "Your immune system is processing toxins that would kill most humans. Your blood chemistry shows adaptation to high radiation levels. Your bone structure has adapted to gravity twice Earth's normal level. That's what happens when you need to survive," David said. Evolution does not work this quickly, Dr. Velox insisted. Genetic adaptation takes thousands of years. David smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not entirely friendly either. Maybe evolution works differently when survival depends on it. Dr. Webb was beginning to understand something that frightened her. David, are there others like you on New Perth? Everyone born there after the second generation shows similar adaptations. We're not special. We're just what humans become when they have to be. She ran another scan, this time checking for specific genetic markers that indicated recent evolutionary changes. The results made her step back from the scanner. These changes happened in your lifetime, she said. Your body has been rewriting itself since you were born. The environment demands it, David said simply. So our bodies provide it. Dr. Velox was now running calculations on his portable device. His 4 eyes were blinking rapidly, a sign of deep concern. If what you describe is happening across human frontier colonies, he said slowly, then humanity as a species is changing at an unprecedented rate. Not changing, David corrected. Becoming what we always could be. Dr. Webb looked at the scans again. David's body was not just adapted to survive harsh conditions, it was optimized for them. His bones were strong enough to withstand extreme pressures. His organs could process toxins and survive on minimal resources. His brain was developing capabilities that normal humans did not possess. How many colonies like New Perth are there? She asked. David thought for a moment. Last count was about 400. Maybe more by now. Humans spread out fast once we learned we could survive anywhere. The medical bay fell silent except for the soft humming of equipment. Dr. Webb and Dr. Velox looked at each other with growing understanding. They were not just examining one unusual human. They were seeing the future of an entire species. Dr. Velox, Dr. Webb said quietly, I think we need to contact the Galactic Medical Council. Yes, the Alteran agreed. They need to know about this immediately. David lay back down on the examination table. Take all the tests you need. But remember, you're not studying a mutation or an anomaly. You're studying what humans become when they have to survive. And we've been having to survive for a long time now. The genetic research laboratory on Titan Station buzzed with activity. Scientists from 12 different species worked around the clock, studying samples that had arrived from human colonies across the galaxy. Dr. Webb stood in the center of it all, coordinating the largest biological research project in galactic history. 3 weeks had passed since David Ross had walked out of her medical bay. In those 3 weeks, everything had changed. Report, she said to Dr. Kim, her lead researcher. Samples from 47 colonies show similar patterns, Dr. Kim replied, his voice tight with controlled excitement. Enhanced bone density, improved oxygen processing, accelerated healing, and most importantly, active genetic modification occurring in real time. Dr. Webb nodded. She had seen the preliminary data, but hearing it confirmed still felt surreal. What about the neural development? That's where it gets interesting, Dr. Kim said, pulling up a holographic display. The brain changes are not random. They follow specific patterns based on environmental pressures. The display showed brain scans from humans living on different types of worlds. Desert colonies showed enhanced heat regulation and water conservation. High-gravity worlds produced humans with improved spatial reasoning and reaction times. Toxic worlds created humans with advanced chemical processing abilities. It's like their brains are being programmed by necessity, Dr. Webb observed. That's exactly what's happening, said Dr. Yara, the station's genetic specialist. She was a Centaurian, known for her species' analytical abilities. We've identified what we're calling the adaptation protocol. It's a genetic system that humans have always possessed, but it only activates under extreme stress. Dr. Webb walked over to Yara's workstation. Explain. Human DNA contains dormant sequences that most species lack. When survival pressure reaches critical levels, these sequences activate and begin modifying the host in real time. The changes are then passed to offspring, who are born with the adaptations already in place. How is that possible? Dr. Yara manipulated the genetic display, showing specific DNA strands. Most species evolve through random mutation over millions of years. Humans appear to have evolved a system that allows directed mutation in response to immediate threats. It's elegant and terrifying. Dr. Webb studied the data. Terrifying how? Because there appears to be no limit to what adaptations are possible, Dr. Yara replied. We've found humans who can survive in near-vacuum conditions, others who can process radiation as an energy source, and some who can enter hibernation states lasting months. A chime indicated an incoming transmission. Dr. Webb activated the communication system, and David Ross appeared on the screen. He was back on New Perth, but he looked different, stronger, more focused. "Dr. Webb," he said, "I thought you should know. We've been getting visitors." "What kind of visitors?" "Other humans. From colonies we've never heard of. They're coming to New Perth because they heard about your tests. They want to share information." Dr. Webb felt a chill. "How many?" "Hundreds so far. Maybe thousands more on the way. They're all enhanced, but in different ways. Some can survive without food for weeks. Others can see in complete darkness. There's a group from the Vega system who can communicate without speaking." Dr. Kim looked up from his workstation. "Telepathy?" David's image nodded. "Something like that. They say it developed naturally when they needed to coordinate survival efforts in hostile environments." Dr. Webb was beginning to understand the scope of what they were dealing with. "David, how long has this been going on?" "Generations. Maybe since the first human settlements left the core worlds. We just never talked about it because we thought everyone was adapting the same way." "But they weren't," Dr. Yara said, more to herself than to David. "No," David confirmed. "Each world created its own type of human. Each environment demanded different changes. But we're all still human. We're just more." Dr. Webb ended the transmission and turned to her team. "We need to contact every human colony we can find. I want genetic samples, environmental data, and population statistics." "That could take months," Dr. Kim warned. "Then we work faster," Dr. Webb replied, "because I think we're looking at the most significant evolutionary event in galactic history." Over the following days, data poured in from human settlements across known space. The pattern became clear and frightening. Humans were not just adapting to their environments, they were mastering them. A colony near a black hole had developed humans who could survive time dilation effects. Their bodies aged more slowly, and their minds processed information at accelerated rates. A world covered in ice had produced humans who could regulate their body temperature so precisely they could survive naked in sub-zero conditions. Most disturbing were the humans from the barrier worlds, settlements on the edge of known space where reality itself seemed unstable. These humans had developed abilities that bordered on the impossible. They could predict dangerous events before they happened, navigate through spatial anomalies that confused even advanced AI systems, and survive in environments that had no right to support any form of life. "It's not random," Dr. Yara announced after weeks of analysis. "The adaptation protocol is responding to future threats as much as current ones." "What do you mean?" Dr. Webb asked. "Look at these genetic modifications," Yara said, highlighting specific sequences. "Some of them provide advantages for conditions that don't currently exist on their homeworlds. It's like their bodies are preparing for challenges they haven't encountered yet." Dr. Kim was studying population growth data. "There's something else," he said. "Enhanced humans are reproducing faster than baseline humans, not just because of better survival rates. They're actually having more children, and those children mature more quickly." Dr. Webb felt pieces of a larger puzzle falling into place. They're not just evolving. "They're spreading exponentially," Dr. Kim confirmed. "At current rates, enhanced humans will outnumber baseline humans within 50 years. A new transmission arrived, this time from the Galactic Medical Council. The speaker was Dr. Zenth, a Ragelian who served as the council's chief administrator. "Dr. Webb." Dr. Zenth's voice carried the authority of someone who had made difficult decisions for centuries. "We've received your reports. The Council is concerned about the implications of human genetic modification on this scale." "It's not modification," Dr. Webb corrected. "It's natural evolution, just accelerated." "Evolution that could destabilize the galactic biological balance," Dr. Zenth replied. "We're calling an emergency session. You will present your findings to the full Council within the week." After the transmission ended, Dr. Webb looked at her team. They had uncovered something that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. "What do we tell them?" Dr. Kim asked. Dr. Webb thought about David Ross calmly surviving in conditions that should have killed him, about the hundreds of enhanced humans gathering on New Perth, about the genetic sequences that were preparing for threats that didn't yet exist. "We tell them the truth," she said. "Humanity isn't becoming something new. We're becoming what we were always meant to be. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy is ready for that. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Within hours of Dr. Webb's presentation to the Galactic Medical Council, every major news network across known space was broadcasting the same story. Humanity was evolving at an unprecedented rate, developing abilities that defied known biology. On the trade world of Kepler Prime, merchants gathered around news terminals with growing unease. The Alteran trade representative, Merchant Vel, watched footage of human colonists demonstrating their enhanced abilities. One human walked through a cloud of toxic gas without protection. Another lifted machinery that should have required mechanical assistance. "This changes everything," Vel muttered to his business partner, a Centaurian named Quinn. "How so?" Quinn asked, though his analytical mind was already calculating the implications. "We've been trading with humans based on the assumption that they were biologically limited," Vel explained. "If they can survive in conditions we consider lethal, they can access resources we cannot. Markets we thought were closed to organic life." Quinn's expression darkened. "Markets we currently control." Across the station, similar conversations were taking place in a dozen different languages. The economic implications were staggering. Human colonies were located on worlds that other species had written off as uninhabitable. If humans could not only survive but thrive in those conditions, they controlled access to resources worth trillions of credits. Meanwhile, on the military world of Nexus 7, Fleet Admiral Stone received an encrypted message from Earth Command. The message was brief but clear. "Assess strategic implications of enhanced human colonies. Report classified findings only." Admiral Stone was human herself, but from the core worlds. She had never exhibited the extreme adaptations found in frontier colonies. Reading the reports from Dr. Webb's research, she felt a mixture of pride and concern. "Lieutenant Cross," she called to her aide, "get me casualty reports from human military units stationed on frontier worlds." The data that arrived made her pause. Human military casualties in hostile environments had dropped by 60% over the past decade. Units assigned to planets with extreme conditions were not just surviving, but excelling in ways that their training had never prepared them for. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Cross said, "there's something else. Recruitment from frontier colonies has increased dramatically. These enhanced humans are volunteering for the most dangerous assignments." Admiral Stone studied the recruitment data. Enhanced humans weren't just tougher. They were more willing to take risks, more confident in their abilities to survive impossible situations. From a military perspective, they were ideal soldiers. From a political perspective, they represented a massive shift in human capabilities. On the academic world of Scholar's Rest, Dr. Hanks, a renowned evolutionary biologist, paced his laboratory in agitation. For centuries, his species had been considered the galaxy's experts on biological development. The human data challenged everything he thought he knew. "Evolution doesn't work this way," he said to his research assistant, Dr. Lyra. "But the evidence is clear," Dr. Lyra replied. "Human genetic modification is happening in real time, directed by environmental pressures." "It violates every principle of evolutionary biology," Dr. Hanks insisted. "Random mutation, natural selection, gradual change over millions of years. These humans are rewriting their own genetic code within single lifetimes." Dr. Lyra pulled up the latest reports from human colonies. "Perhaps our principles were incomplete. We've never encountered a species with this level of genetic flexibility." Dr. Hanks stopped pacing. "Or maybe we have and we just didn't recognize it." "What do you mean?" "Think about it," Dr. Hanks said slowly. "Humans have only been in space for a few centuries, but they've already spread further than species that have had spaceflight for millennia. They established colonies in conditions that would kill most of us. We assumed it was their technology or their determination. But it was their biology," Dr. Lyra finished. "They were designed for this," Dr. Hanks said, "not by intelligence but by evolution itself. They're a species built to spread, adapt, and survive in any environment." Back on New Perth, David Ross stood before a gathering of enhanced humans from dozens of different colonies. The meeting had started with a few hundred people. Now there were thousands, with more arriving daily. "We need to be careful," said Maria Santos, a woman from the high radiation world of Gamma Station. Her skin had a faint metallic sheen that allowed her to process radiation as energy. "The other species are getting nervous." "Let them be nervous," replied Robert Chen from the ice world of Frost's Edge. His body temperature could drop to near freezing levels without harm, allowing him to survive in conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. "We're not hiding what we are anymore." David nodded. "The question is, what do we do now? The galaxy knows about us. They're scared." "They should be," said a new voice. The speaker was Lisa Park from the Void Colonies, settlements in deep space between stars. She could survive in hard vacuum for hours and navigate by sensing gravitational fields. "We're not the same species we were when we left Earth." "We're still human," David insisted, "are we?" Lisa asked. "I can survive in the vacuum of space. Robert can freeze solid and thaw back to life. Maria converts radiation into energy. When does adaptation become something else entirely?" The question hung in the air. Around the gathering, enhanced humans with abilities that bordered on the impossible looked at each other with new understanding. "It doesn't matter what we call ourselves," said a voice from the back of the crowd. The speaker was Michael Torres from the time dilation colonies near Sagittarius A. His aging had slowed to a crawl, and his perception of time was fundamentally different from normal humans. "What matters is that we exist and we're not going away." David looked out over the assembled crowd. Each person represented a different path of human evolution, a different solution to the challenge of survival in an hostile universe. Together they represented something unprecedented in galactic history. "The other species are right to be concerned," he said finally. "We are changing the balance of power in the galaxy. The question is, do we apologize for what we've become or do we embrace it?" "Embrace it," came voices from throughout the crowd. David nodded. "Then we need to prepare, because this is just the beginning." As the meeting continued, messages were being sent across the galaxy. The Alteran Trade Council proposed new regulations on human colony expansion. The Rigelian Defense Force suggested monitoring systems for enhanced human populations. Academic institutions demanded access to human genetic samples for study. But in the Outer Rim territories, where space was vast and law was scarce, something else was happening. Reports began filtering in of strange signals from the deep void. Automated probes were going silent. Long-range sensors detected massive objects moving between star systems. The galaxy was about to face a threat that would test every species' ability to survive. And for the first time in their history, the enhanced humans felt something that surprised them. They felt ready. The evacuation sirens on Outpost Delta screamed across the barren landscape. Commander Hayes watched through reinforced windows as the last transport ships lifted off, carrying the station's non-human personnel to safety. In the distance, dark shapes moved across the horizon like a living storm. The swarm had arrived. "How long until they reach us?" Hayes asked his communications officer. 12 hours, maybe less," Lieutenant Rodriguez replied. Her voice was steady, but Hayes could see the tension in her shoulders. Like most of the remaining personnel, Rodriguez was from the frontier colonies. Her enhanced physiology allowed her to function under stress that would cripple baseline humans. Hayes nodded and activated the emergency beacon. Within minutes, responses came from enhanced human volunteers across 3 star systems, not requests for evacuation but offers to help fight. "Sir," Rodriguez said, "I'm getting reports from the Outer Rim. The swarm isn't just attacking military targets. They're consuming entire planets, stripping them down to rock and metal." Hayes had read the classified reports. The swarm was a collective intelligence that had appeared from outside the galaxy. They converted organic matter into raw material for their ships and weapons. Every planet they touched became a dead world, drained of all life. The established galactic civilizations had fought the swarm before, on the galaxy's edge. The results had been disastrous. Entire fleets consumed, worlds stripped bare. Billions of beings absorbed into the swarm's collective consciousness. "The evacuation fleets are clear," reported Sergeant Kim, monitoring the retreat from his sensor station. His enhanced vision could track objects at distances that challenged electronic systems. "All civilian populations have been moved to the core worlds." Hayes looked at his remaining team. 47 enhanced humans, volunteers from colonies that most of the galaxy considered uninhabitable. They had stayed behind to delay the swarm's advance, buying time for the evacuation to be completed. "Anyone want to change their minds?" Hayes asked. "Transport ships are still within communication range." No one moved. Hayes smiled grimly. He had expected that response. Enhanced humans didn't run from impossible odds. They adapted to them. The first swarm scouts appeared 6 hours earlier than predicted. They moved like metallic insects, each one the size of a transport ship. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow, adjusting to environmental conditions in real time. Interesting, muttered Dr. Park, the team's scientific observer. She was from the void colonies and could survive in hard vacuum, making her ideal for studying hostile alien technology. They're showing adaptive behavior similar to enhanced humans. How similar? Hayes asked. Very similar. Watch how they're modifying their approach based on our defensive positions. It's like they're learning and evolving their tactics in real time. Hayes activated his weapon systems. The outpost's defenses had been designed to delay conventional attackers, not an adaptive collective intelligence. But his team wasn't conventional either. The first attack came at dawn. Swarm units approached from multiple directions, testing the outpost responses. Hayes ordered his team to vary their defensive patterns, never using the same tactic twice. They're analyzing our behavior, Dr. Park reported. Each attack is more coordinated than the last. Then we get more unpredictable, Hayes replied. That was when something unexpected happened. As the battle intensified, Hayes noticed that his team was performing beyond even enhanced human capabilities. Rodriguez was processing information faster than any computer system. Kim was seeing tactical opportunities that shouldn't have been visible. Dr. Park was understanding swarm technology as if she had studied it for years. What's happening to us? Rodriguez asked during a brief lull in the fighting. We're adapting, Dr. Park said with wonder in her voice. The adaptation protocol isn't just responding to environmental threats. It's responding to intellectual and tactical challenges. Hayes felt it too. His mind was processing the battle on multiple levels simultaneously. He could predict swarm movements, coordinate complex defensive maneuvers, and analyze their technology all at the same time. The swarm operates as a collective intelligence, he realized. It expects other species to think in predictable patterns. But we're not thinking as individuals or as a collective. We're thinking as something else entirely. The second wave of attacks confirmed Hayes' theory. The swarm sent larger forces, expecting to overwhelm the outpost through superior numbers. Instead, they found defenders who could anticipate their moves and counter them with strategies that seemed to change from moment to moment. They're confused, Dr. Park announced, monitoring swarm communications. Their collective intelligence can't process our decision-making patterns. We're too random, too individual, but also too coordinated. Hayes began to understand. The enhanced humans weren't just physically adapted to survive impossible conditions. They were intellectually adapted to solve problems that had never been solved before. All teams, new orders. Hayes broadcast. Stop thinking defensively. Start thinking like hunters. What followed was unlike any battle in recorded history. Instead of trying to hold fixed positions, the enhanced humans began stalking individual swarm units. They used their environmental adaptations to move through conditions that would kill normal humans, striking from directions the swarm couldn't predict. Rodriguez, with her enhanced nervous system, could react to swarm movements before they were fully executed. Kim's enhanced vision allowed him to identify weak points in swarm technology that their own sensors couldn't detect. Dr. Park began disabling swarm units by understanding their biological mechanical hybrid nature better than they understood it themselves. Hayes, Dr. Park called out during the fighting. I think I know why the swarm can't handle us. Explain later, Hayes replied, destroying another scout unit with precision that surprised even him. No, you need to know this now, Dr. Park insisted. The swarm operates on the principle that intelligence is collective. Every decision is made by the whole group. But enhanced humans have developed something new. We think as individuals but coordinate as if we share a mind. It's a hybrid intelligence that they have no framework for understanding. Hayes paused in his fighting. Around the outpost, his team was systematically destroying swarm units that should have been impossible to defeat. Are you saying we're winning? I'm saying the swarm is retreating, Dr. Park replied with disbelief in her voice. Hayes looked at his tactical display. The swarm forces were indeed pulling back, their movements showing something that their intelligence profile said they were incapable of. Uncertainty. All teams, maintain pressure but don't pursue, Hayes ordered. Let them think about what just happened. As the immediate threat receded, Hayes contacted Fleet Command with a message that would change galactic military strategy forever. This is Outpost Delta, Swarm advance has been halted. Repeat, swarm advance has been halted. Enhanced human defensive capabilities exceed all projections. Requesting reinforcements to exploit tactical advantage. The response came back within minutes, filled with disbelief and hope in equal measure. Confirmed. Outpost Delta. Reinforcements en route. Prepare to brief command on your methods. Hayes looked at his team. They had done something that the galaxy's greatest military minds had thought impossible. They had stopped the swarm's advance through sheer adaptive intelligence. What do we tell them? Rodriguez asked. Hayes smiled. We tell them that the impossible just became possible. And this is only the beginning. The war had been going on for 8 months, and it looked nothing like what the galaxy expected. Deep in swarm-controlled territory, enhanced human teams moved like ghosts through devastated star systems. They operated behind enemy lines not as desperate refugees, but as apex predators hunting in their natural environment. Captain Torres crouched behind the twisted remains of what had once been a Rigelian colony ship. Around her, the landscape showed the typical signs of swarm occupation: organic matter consumed, metal structures repurposed, and an atmosphere converted to support swarm biology. It should have been a death trap for any organic life form. Instead, Torres breathed easily through lungs that had adapted to process the toxic air. Her enhanced metabolism converted the swarm's atmospheric pollutants into usable energy. What had been designed to kill organic life was actually strengthening her. Target acquired, whispered Sergeant Blake through their communication system. Like Torres, he was from the outer colonies. His enhanced vision could see clearly in the near-total darkness that the swarm preferred. Torres looked where Blake was pointing. A swarm coordination node the size of a building pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. These nodes controlled local swarm operations across entire star systems. In the early days of the war, conventional forces had tried to destroy them with massive bombardments, usually failing and always alerting the collective to their presence. Enhanced humans had developed a better approach. Phase 1, Torres whispered. Her team scattered across the area, each member using their specific adaptations. Blake, with his enhanced speed and reflexes, moved to disable the node's sensory systems. Dr. Santos, whose body could survive in hard vacuum, approached from the direction the swarm considered impossible. Lieutenant Cooper, who could slow his biological processes to near-death levels, positioned himself inside the node's detection grid without triggering its sensors. The swarm had built their defenses against conventional thinking. They expected attacks from predictable directions using predictable methods. Enhanced humans attacked from directions that conventional life forms couldn't survive, using methods that collective intelligence couldn't anticipate. Phase 2, Torres signaled. The attack wasn't an explosion or a bombardment. It was something far more devastating. Dr. Santos introduced a modified virus into the node's biological components. The virus had been developed by enhanced humans whose immune systems could process and modify infectious agents in real time. It was specifically designed to disrupt the swarm's collective communication network. Within minutes, the coordination node began behaving erratically. Its bioluminescent patterns became chaotic. The swarm units under its control started making contradictory movements. It's working, Blake reported. Local swarm forces are losing coordination. Torres smiled grimly. This was the 5th coordination node they had disabled in the past week. Each successful mission taught them more about swarm weaknesses and refined their tactical approaches. But the real breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. 3 months earlier, a team of enhanced humans from the telepathic colonies had made contact with individual swarm units that had been separated from the collective. What they discovered changed everything the galaxy thought they knew about their enemy. The swarm wasn't evil or malicious. They were terrified. Captain, Dr. Santos's voice came through the communication system. I'm picking up individual swarm biosignatures. They're approaching, but not in attack formation. Torres felt a familiar surge of enhanced awareness. Her brain processed multiple threat assessments simultaneously, while her body prepared for several different combat scenarios. But her enhanced intuition, developed through countless battles, suggested this was something different. Hold position, she ordered. Let them approach. 3 swarm units emerged from the shadows. But instead of the coordinated movements typical of the collective, these units moved hesitantly, almost fearfully. Torres activated the communication device developed by the telepathic colonies. It allowed direct interface with swarm neural networks without triggering their collective responses. The first contact had been shocking. Individual swarm units, when separated from their collective, displayed intelligence and emotion similar to any other species. They were capable of fear, curiosity, and even friendship. The collective consciousness that had seemed so threatening was actually a prison that trapped billions of individual minds. We are alone," came the translated message from the nearest swarm unit. "Collective no longer speaks to us. We are afraid." Torres had experienced this before. Individual swarm units, cut off from their collective by enhanced human interference, became fully conscious individuals for the first time in their existence. "You're safe," Torres replied through the communication device. "We won't hurt you. Others of collective, they will come for us. They will force reconnection," Torres nodded. The collective did not tolerate individual consciousness among its units. Swarm members who developed independent thought were either forcibly reintegrated or destroyed. "We can protect you," Torres offered, "but we need your help to free others like you." This was the strategy that had evolved from months of contact with individual swarm units. Enhanced humans weren't just fighting the swarm, they were liberating it. The separated swarm units provided detailed information about collective operations, weak points in their coordination networks, and most importantly, how to sever individual units from collective control without destroying them. "Captain," Lieutenant Cooper's voice interrupted the conversation. "We've got incoming. Large collective force heading directly for our position." Torres looked at the three individual swarm units. They were trembling with what could only be described as terror. "New plan," Torres announced to her team. "We're not running. We're recruiting." What followed was unlike any battle in the war. Enhanced human teams used their adaptive intelligence to identify and isolate individual swarm units from the collective force. Instead of destroying them, they severed their connection to the group mind. The effect was dramatic. As more swarm units regained individual consciousness, they began actively helping to free others. The collective force, designed to operate as a unified entity, found itself fragmenting into thousands of confused, frightened, but finally free individuals. "This is impossible," Dr. Santos said, watching former swarm units working alongside enhanced humans to disable collective control systems. "Impossible for who?" Torres replied, echoing the words that had started this entire journey. By the end of the operation, Torres's team had liberated over 1,000 individual swarm units. More importantly, they had established communication networks that allowed freed swarm individuals to contact others still trapped in the collective. "Captain," Blake reported, monitoring long-range communications, "I'm getting reports from other human teams across the sector. The liberation strategy is working on a massive scale." Torres nodded. Enhanced humans had discovered that the galaxy's greatest threat wasn't an enemy to be destroyed, but a prison to be broken. The swarm's collective intelligence, which had seemed so powerful, was actually fragile when faced with beings who could think both as individuals and as coordinated groups. "Send a message to Fleet Command," Torres ordered. "Tell them the war is changing. We're not just stopping the swarm anymore. We're freeing them." The response came back quickly, filled with amazement and hope. "Confirmed, Captain Torres. Liberation strategy approved for galaxy-wide implementation. Enhanced human teams are being deployed to all swarm-controlled systems." Torres looked around at her mixed team of enhanced humans and liberated swarm individuals working together to free others from collective control. "What do we do now?" Dr. Santos asked. Torres smiled. "Now we show the galaxy what happens when you give people the freedom to become what they need to be." The war was far from over, but for the first time since the swarm arrived, the galaxy had hope. And it was a hope delivered by humans who had learned that the impossible was just another problem waiting to be solved. The Galactic Council chambers had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Representatives from over 200 species sat in their traditional seats. But the center of the chamber was occupied by beings that challenged every assumption about biological possibility. Dr. Webb stood at the presentation podium, but she was no longer the same person who had first examined David Ross a year ago. Extended contact with enhanced humans had triggered her own latent adaptive capabilities. Her mind processed information with clarity that surprised even her, and her body showed none of the stress that should have accumulated from months of intensive research. The liberation of swarm-controlled territory is nearly complete, she announced to the assembled representatives. What we discovered changes everything we thought we knew about intelligence, consciousness, and biological potential. Behind her, holographic displays showed star maps where red zones marking swarm territory had been replaced by green zones indicating liberated systems. In less than 6 months, enhanced human teams had turned a galactic catastrophe into the largest liberation movement in recorded history. How many individual swarm units have been freed? Asked Ambassador Velthar of the Alterran Trade Council. Current estimates place the number at over 50 billion, Dr. Webb replied. Each one is now a free individual, capable of independent thought and decision-making. The number caused murmurs throughout the chamber. The liberated swarm individuals represented one of the largest populations in the galaxy, and they owed their freedom to human intervention. Dr. Webb, said Counselor Jark of the Rigelian Defense Force, your preliminary report suggests that human enhancement is accelerating. Can you explain what this means for galactic stability? Dr. Webb activated a new display showing genetic analysis from human populations across the galaxy. The data was stunning even to her. Enhanced humans are not just adapting to their current environments, she explained. They are developing capabilities for challenges that don't yet exist. We believe the adaptation protocol is responding to potential future threats. What kind of threats? Asked Dr. Yenth of the Academic Council. Unknown, Dr. Webb admitted. But the adaptations suggest preparation for conditions beyond anything currently found in our galaxy. Enhanced humans are developing abilities that seem designed for exploration beyond galactic boundaries. The implications settled over the chamber like a heavy weight. Enhanced humans were already the most capable beings in known space. If they were developing capabilities for challenges beyond the galaxy itself, what did that mean for everyone else? There's something else, Dr. Webb continued. Enhanced humans are not just physically and mentally superior. They are developing a form of cooperative intelligence that surpasses both individual and collective thinking. She activated recordings from the swarm liberation campaigns. The footage showed enhanced human teams coordinating complex operations with a fluidity that seemed almost supernatural. They think as individuals but coordinate as if they share a single mind. Dr. Webb explained. It's a hybrid intelligence model that allows for both creative problem-solving and perfect teamwork. How is this possible? Asked the Centaurian representative. We believe it's an evolutionary response to the challenges of deep space colonization, Dr. Webb replied. Humans needed to be independent enough to survive alone, but coordinated enough to work together for survival. The result is a new form of consciousness. A new voice spoke from the chamber's communication system. It was David Ross, now serving as humanity's primary liaison with the liberated swarm populations. Dr. Webb is correct, David said, his image appearing on the main display, but she's describing the past. I'm here to talk about the future. David looked different than when Dr. Webb had first examined him. His enhanced capabilities had continued to develop, and there was something in his eyes that suggested awareness of things beyond normal perception. The liberated swarm individuals are integrating with human colonies, David continued. They're sharing their collective knowledge while learning individual consciousness from us. The result is accelerating both species' development. What do you mean by accelerating development? Asked Ambassador Velthar. Combined human swarm research teams have made technological advances in the past 6 months that should have taken centuries, David explained. They're developing faster-than-light communication, matter-energy conversion systems, and biological enhancement techniques that make current human adaptations look primitive. Dr. Webb felt a chill of recognition. This was what David's genetic sequences had been preparing for. Not just survival in harsh environments, but partnership with intelligence beyond anything previously encountered. There's more, David said. Long-range sensors have detected signals from beyond our galaxy. Not random noise, but structured communications. We believe there are other galaxies facing challenges similar to what we experienced with the swarm. The chamber fell silent. The implications were staggering. Are you suggesting interstellar expansion? Asked Counselor Jark. I'm suggesting it's inevitable, David replied. Enhanced humans and liberated swarm individuals are developing the capabilities for intergalactic travel. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy wants to be part of that expansion or if you Want to be left behind? Dr. Webb looked around the chamber at representatives of species that had dominated galactic politics for millennia. Most seemed stunned by the rapid changes that humanity had brought to their carefully ordered universe. "What do you want from us?" asked Dr. Yenth. David's expression was patient but determined. "Nothing you're not willing to give. Enhanced humans don't conquer or dominate. We adapt and survive. But we're offering partnership to any species that wants to join us in exploring what lies beyond our galaxy." "And if we refuse?" asked Ambassador Velthar. "Then you stay here and continue doing what you've always done," David replied. "But remember, a year ago you called our abilities impossible. 6 months ago you thought the swarm couldn't be defeated. Today, we're offering you access to knowledge and capabilities that will reshape what's possible for all organic life." Dr. Webb stepped forward to address the council directly. "The choice is yours," she said. "Enhanced humans have already proven that impossible is just another word for problems that haven't been solved yet. We're not asking you to become like us. We're asking if you want to discover what you could become." The debate that followed would continue for weeks, but Dr. Webb already knew the outcome. Enhanced humans had done something that no species in galactic history had achieved. They had turned a threat to all life into an opportunity for unprecedented growth. Some species would join the human swarm alliance. Others would remain in known space, content with familiar limitations. But the galaxy would never be the same. As the session ended, Dr. Webb received a private message from David. "The first intergalactic expedition ships are ready," he said. "Enhanced human and liberated swarm crews, with volunteer representatives from 12 other species. We launch in 6 months," Dr. Webb smiled. A year ago, she had been a doctor studying impossible medical scans. Now she was documenting the next phase of organic evolution in the universe. "Where are you going first?" she asked. "Andromeda Galaxy," David replied. "Our sensors detected signals that suggest they're facing something similar to what we experienced." "We're going to help," Dr. Webb nodded. It was exactly what she would have expected. Enhanced humans didn't just survive impossible conditions. They helped others do the same. "Dr. Webb," David added, "there's a place for you on the expedition if you want it. Your research will be crucial for understanding what we find out there." Dr. Webb looked around the council chambers, where representatives were still debating whether humanity's rapid evolution was a threat or an opportunity. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "I'll go." As she prepared to leave the chamber, Dr. Webb reflected on how much had changed since that first impossible medical scan. Humanity had not just survived the challenges of deep space. They had mastered them and used that mastery to free others from bondage. The impossible had become possible, and the possible had become inevitable. The galaxy was about to discover that when humans said nothing was impossible, they meant it literally.